What are we meant to learn from the downfall of the girl boss, and is it possible to write a novel from the perspective of a delusional girl boss? For reference, this is Cami Teles of Parade, Sofia Amoruso of Nasty Gal, Emily Weiss of Glossier, and Audrey Gelman of The Wing. Today we're talking about Sheer by Vanessa Lawrence. This is a book that I absolutely loved. In the post that I made yesterday, I talked about 90s gossip, where it was sort of the era of like a very cool young New York person, right? This book takes us directly into that time period with the downfall of a girl boss set in the late 90s to early aughts, right? She is a closeted lesbian, which is very important because it keeps coming up later, and she is extremely young. This is the girl boss 20 years before the girl boss existed. Maxine Thomas, known as Max, founds this makeup company, and you can tell that Lawrence is very, very acquainted with the world of like clothes and makeup, but not in a way that's annoying. It was very, very interesting sort of seeing the way that she talks about women's inner beauty and how the character, who was a makeup artist before she founded the company, was able to bring out women's beauty through the like application of blush and eyeliner and all of the stuff that was very, very interesting to me as someone who's very outside that world. I was like, oh, it's cool. Like, you could tell that she deeply loves and respects women and respects the sort of practices that make women beautiful. At the same time, like I said, this is a book that takes place in the late 90s and early aughts, so the climate around sexuality was very different. It's always hard explaining to Gen Z how homophobic society was before like 2009. It was just a very, very different time. So Max decides to stay in the closet, which eventually sort of leads to her downfall. This is not a spoiler. The entire book takes place over 7 days alternating between past and present, where we are sort of taken into her downfall. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I loved this book because Max is delusional. She is so mired in ambition and success and striving and like wanting to be the best and wanting to be the most successful and the most rich and the most powerful that a lot of her relationships fall by the wayside, a lot of her morals fall by the wayside, and by the end of the book, you sort of realize that the character is deeply delusional and has no idea like how she affects power on other people, how she wields power on other people, the influence that you can have when you are literally the CEO. But I loved that part of it, right? When we talk about these girl boss stories, there's so much of it that is like this Icarus arc. 2 years ago on Substack, I wrote There's Something About Her, which was about the fall of the girl boss, right? I analyzed 5 or 6 different girl bosses, and I said that all of these stories have something very similar where they are built up in the media. They are hailed as like wonderkins and prodigies and successes, right? Part of the myth of these women is that they are very young and they're very beautiful, and that sort of creates this element of like mystique around them. But unfortunately, that also leads to this obsession with seeing them fail. I will also say in this piece, I said that each one of them was hoist by their own petard. They all failed for very specific reasons, racism for a lot of them. And so I'm not like excusing it, but I'm saying that the fascination that we have with these stories comes from a very specific place of like gender when you think about it sociologically. When you think about the gender of it all, there is this sort of interesting debate that crops up where it's this idea of like, can you have it all as a woman? Can you have it all as a founder, right? A lot of those women were mothers and wives and found that their time was a little bit constricted as they sort of grew into their lives outside of work. Max dedicated herself completely to her job and still found herself like effectively sort of, I'm trying not to give spoilers, still found herself sort of destroyed and attacked and like, again, the Icarus of it all. Anyway, if you are interested in the rise and fall of a girl boss, I recommend this book. If you are interested in a story of like late 90s, early aughts, glamour, New York, I absolutely loved that part of it. Like I said in my video yesterday, I loved the like Sex and the City era where you see that there was so much money in the city, so many people just like trying to make it. It's like the very essence of the city distilled and like encapsulated, which I really, really enjoyed. If you like complicated, fucked up main characters, I highly recommend this book. If you like queer characters, I recommend this book. Like I said, 5 stars. I loved it. And thank you to the team at Dutton for sending me a copy.